Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk About It. This is episode 25, and today I want to talk about why kids are groomed in school, who does the grooming, and why grooming prevention belongs in every school. I'm Sherry Lopez, human trafficking survivor, prevention educator, and founder of Pearl at the Mailbox and the Survivor Informed Learning Institute. Today we're talking about a difficult but incredibly important topic. Why are children groomed in schools? When people hear that question, many immediately picture a school employee. While abuse by a trusted adult in a school setting does happen and must be taken seriously, the reality is much broader. Schools are places where hundreds or even thousands of children gather every day. Friendships are formed, trust develops, social circles grow, students participate in sports, clubs, music, drama, and countless activities that help build relationships. Those are all wonderful things, but they're also the very reasons schools can become environments where grooming begins. Not because schools are inherently unsafe, but because offenders seek opportunities wherever children naturally gather. That's why understanding the grooming process is so important. Why schools? Well, children spend a significant part of their lives at school. They make friends, they join clubs and do sports, they communicate on social media before, during, and after school. They attend dances, games, performances, and other activities. And for someone looking to manipulate or exploit a child, these normal relationships provide opportunities to gain trust, identify vulnerabilities, and gradually build influence. As I have shared many times in my writing, podcasts, and public speaking, most grooming does not begin with obvious abuse, so it can be hard to recognize. It can begin simply with the groomer showing their selected victim extra attention, kindness, acceptance, and making them feel special, seen, and important. Because these actions are part of normal human interaction, it's why grooming is often overlooked, especially in the beginning. And that's because what is observed by others doesn't look like something dangerous or abusive is happening. This is why grooming can hide in plain sight. Who might be doing the grooming? Well, that answer can be complex and simple at the same time. A child may be groomed by someone they already know, or someone they come to know through school or school-related activities. It could be another student, an older teenager, a boyfriend or girlfriend, a friend of a friend, a coach, a volunteer, or another trusted adult who has access to children. Sometimes the person isn't connected to the school at all, but gains access through relationships with students. This is why it's so important not to focus only on who someone is. Instead, pay attention to how they behave. Grooming isn't defined by a person's occupation, age, or title. It's defined by a pattern of behavior. The person gradually builds trust, creates a special relationship, tests boundaries a little at a time, encourages secrecy, and slowly gains influence and control over the child. When we stop focusing on labels and start recognizing behaviors, we're much more likely to identify grooming before exploitation occurs. People groom for many different reasons. Some intend to sexually abuse a child. Some seek to exploit children through trafficking or commercial sexual exploitation. Others groom children to obtain explicit images or videos. Some seek emotional control or domination. Others manipulate children into committing crimes, transporting drugs, stealing, or recruiting additional victims. The end goal may differ, but the grooming process often follows remarkably similar patterns. Can kids groom other kids? This surprises many people. Yes, young people can engage in grooming behaviors. Sometimes they're acting on their own. Other times, they've been manipulated or directed by an older teen or adult. Not every young person recruiting another child is the person ultimately benefiting from the exploitation of another. In many situations, they may also be victims of trafficking themselves and are forced to find others to recruit on behalf of the trafficker. It's called peer recruitment. Think about it. One of the easiest ways to gain access to a child is through another child. Imagine a teen who is struggling with confidence, shy, or a loner. Hears things like this from a peer that may seem to have it all together. Come hang out with us. My boyfriend wants to meet you. You'd fit right in with our group. Let's go to this party. I know someone who can help you make money. Those invitations may be completely innocent, but in some situations, they're part of a deliberate effort to introduce a child to someone seeking to manipulate or exploit them. The trusted friend becomes the bridge, and the child lowers their guard because the invitation comes from someone they already know or may idolize or envy. That doesn't mean every friend is recruiting another child. Far from it. It simply reminds us that trust itself can sometimes be used as a tool for manipulation. Why would a teen recruit another teen? There isn't one simple answer. Some are promised money, some are threatened, some are manipulated, some believe they're helping a friend. Some have been groomed themselves and no longer recognize the manipulation taking place. Others are simply trying to gain acceptance from someone they admire or fear. And these situations are often much more complex than when they first appear. But the end goal is to exploit. Warning signs parents and professionals may notice. No single behavior proves grooming or exploitation, but patterns deserve attention. A student suddenly becomes secretive about new friendships. An older boyfriend or girlfriend appears unexpectedly. A child begins receiving gifts without explanation. They're getting rides from unfamiliar adults. They suddenly have expensive clothing, electronics, or cash. Attendance drops. Grades change dramatically. They withdraw from longtime friends. Someone insists on communicating through disappearing message apps, or the child becomes unusually protective of a new relationship despite concerns from trusted adults. Again, these behaviors don't automatically mean exploitation is occurring, but they are reasons to pause, ask questions, and stay engaged. What can schools do? Schools cannot prevent every offender, but they can reduce opportunities. They can train staff to recognize grooming behaviors, establish clear professional boundaries, teach digital safety, help students identify trusted adults, and respond seriously when concerns arise. Plus, opening the doors and inviting live survivor experts inside to speak to the students, sharing how they were groomed and trafficked to bring realness to what can happen. Textbooks can help, but hearing from someone who lived it brings a whole level of education. Why is there so much resistance to grooming prevention education? This is one of my own questions, and many other survivors wonder the same thing too. It's like walking into brick walls, making these doors open. I know some organizations are able to get before the students, but it's not a full discussion on grooming prevention. It may be touched upon, but included with safe dating and healthy relationships. My question is this: if grooming is a well-documented pathway to child sexual abuse, exploitation, grooming, and trafficking, why isn't grooming prevention education taught in every schools everywhere? After all, I was groomed by my high school boyfriend's father. My grooming totally had a school connection. The answer usually isn't because schools don't care about children. And I know that most educators genuinely want students to be safe. I think the reasons are often much more complicated. Some administrators worry that discussing grooming will frighten students or parents. Others believe exploitation is something that happens somewhere else, not in their community. Some educators are concerned about discussing sensitive topics with younger students, or fear criticism from parents who misunderstand what grooming prevention education actually teaches, or that this is a topic for parents to talk to their children about at home. I agree that parents should talk to their children about grooming and trafficking, but the reality is that's not possible because most parents don't understand the process themselves. So how can they teach their children about something they themselves don't understand? I understand that schools also face practical challenges. Academic requirements continue to grow, and administrators often struggle to fit additional prevention education into an already full school day. But I believe one of the biggest barriers is misunderstanding. I know many people hear the word grooming and immediately assume the conversation is going to be about sex. It isn't. Grooming prevention is relationship safety education. It's teaching children and the adults who care for them to recognize manipulation, unhealthy relationship dynamics, secrecy, boundary violations, coercion, isolation, and controlling behaviors before exploitation occurs. Those are life skills. They're skills that help protect children from many forms of abuse, not just trafficking. Another reason these conversations are difficult is because grooming challenges many of our assumptions. We naturally want to believe children are primarily at risk from strangers, but grooming often involves someone the child already knows or trusts. Sometimes it's another student. Sometimes it's a dating partner. Sometimes it's a trusted adult. Sometimes it's a peer who has already been groomed and is now being used to recruit someone else. I know those realities are uncomfortable and maybe even scary, but avoiding the conversation doesn't make children safer. It's continuing to keep them at risk. I get that some schools also worry about liability. They fear that providing grooming prevention education might somehow suggest they have a grooming problem. I see it differently. We teach fire safety because we hope there will never be a fire. We teach anti-bullying because we want children to recognize harmful behaviors. We practice lockdown drills because we hope they're never needed. Teaching grooming prevention is no different. Providing grooming prevention education isn't an accusation. It's a commitment to protecting children. Imagine if every student understood that someone asking them to keep secrets from trusted adults could be a warning sign. Imagine if every parent recognized boundary testing before it escalated. Imagine if every educator understood the early stages of grooming and felt confident responding appropriately. How many children could be protected before exploitation ever begins? If we truly believe prevention is better than intervention, then grooming prevention education shouldn't be optional. It should be considered an essential part of child safety education, just like fire safety, bullying prevention, internet safety, and personal boundaries. So, what can parents do? Stay engaged in your child's life. Know their friends. Know who they're communicating with online. Talk regularly about healthy relationships. Teach that secrecy involving relationships with older teens or adults can be a warning sign. Most importantly, let your child know they can tell you anything without fearing immediate punishment, because sometimes one conversation changes everything. Here are my final thoughts for this episode. A myth about grooming is that it only happens somewhere else, to someone else's kid. It doesn't. It can happen in any community, any school, any neighborhood, any family. Recognizing grooming isn't about becoming suspicious of everyone. It's about recognizing behaviors that are designed to create secrecy, dependency, and control before exploitation occurs. The more people understand those patterns, the more opportunities we have to interrupt them early. Children don't need more fear. They need more informed adults, but if we don't educate them, then they may be walking blindly into a relationship or friendship that can end up hurting them. Isn't that reason enough to teach them what to look for? Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Let's Talk About It. If this episode helped you better understand grooming in schools, please share it with others and encourage them to visit Pearl at the mailbox to learn more about grooming prevention, signs to look for, and so much more. Together we can build communities that recognize grooming earlier, respond with confidence, and protect children before exploitation has a chance to occur. Because the best way to stop exploitation is to recognize grooming before exploitation occurs. Until next time, have a great day.